Not everyone in the world is born fitting society's idea of perfect. Some people come into life carrying physical differences that instantly make them stand out. These differences can attract curiosity, judgment, fear, or even admiration. For famous people, these traits often become part of how the world remembers them. In this video, we explore the lives of famous black figures whose physical differences shaped their journeys in powerful ways. These stories are not about mockery or shock. They are about humanity, struggle, resilience, and how difference can become strength. One powerful example is blues legend Hound Dog Taylor. Known for his raw sound and rebellious spirit, Hound Dog Taylor was born with 6 fingers on each hand. At a time when people were deeply superstitious, this rare condition made his childhood difficult. People whispered, stared, and sometimes avoided him. Some even believed his hands were a bad sign. But as he grew older and discovered music, those same hands found purpose. When he held a guitar, his extra fingers allowed him to play in ways others could not. His sound was sharper, louder, and more intense. Audiences didn't just hear his music, they felt it. Over time, what once caused fear became part of his legend. His hands didn't hold him back. They pushed him forward and made him unforgettable in blues history. Another powerful story comes from the world of sports. Some athletes are remembered for trophies, while others are remembered for uniqueness. One such baseball pitcher was born with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. From childhood, his body became a topic of discussion before his talent. Coaches, teammates, and fans often noticed his hands before his skills. This kind of attention can be heavy, especially for a young person trying to find confidence. However, as he grew into professional baseball, his grip on the ball became one of his strengths. Some believed his hand structure helped create unusual pitch movement that confused batters. While public attention never fully left his physical traits, he continued to perform at the highest level. His career became proof that ability matters more than appearance. Living under constant observation is not easy, but endurance often builds quiet strength. Music has always been a space where emotion matters more than looks. Rapper and producer DJ Paul is another example of this truth. From birth, he lived with a physical condition that affected his right arm. It was weaker, smaller, and limited in movement. Growing up, everyday activities were harder, and public confidence was a challenge. For many years, he avoided attention, focusing instead on sound, rhythm, and production. Music became his escape. Rather than letting insecurity silence him, he poured his emotions into beats and lyrics. As Southern hip-hop grew, DJ Paul became one of its defining figures. When his condition became known publicly, fans saw more than a physical difference. They saw persistence. His journey showed that creativity often comes from struggle, and limitation can shape originality. Jazz legend Dizzy Gillespie is another unforgettable figure whose physical traits became part of his public image. Known for his energetic performances and revolutionary sound, Dizzy had cheeks that puffed outward dramatically when he played the trumpet. At first, audiences were confused and curious. Some worried it looked painful or dangerous. But over time, those puffed cheeks became iconic. They symbolized intensity, passion, and dedication to sound. Dizzy never tried to hide them. Instead, he embraced them as part of who he was. His confidence helped audiences focus on the brilliance of his music rather than questioning his appearance. His career reminds us that confidence often teaches the world how to see us. In Africa, singer Salif Keita's story carries deep emotional weight. Born with albinism in a society filled with myths and fear, he faced rejection from a very young age. His pale skin made him a target of discrimination, even within his own community. Many believed his condition was a curse. Living under harsh sunlight also caused physical challenges. Despite this, music became his refuge. When he sang, people listened beyond appearance. As he grew into an international star, his voice traveled farther than prejudice. He became a symbol of dignity and pride, showing that identity is deeper than skin. His success gave hope to many people living with albinism across Africa and the world. Some physical differences are not present at birth but develop through life choices and careers. Professional wrestling is one such world where the body becomes part of storytelling. Abdullah the Butcher is a name remembered for fear, intensity, and extreme commitment. Over decades of hardcore wrestling, his forehead became heavily scarred from repeated blade cuts used to create dramatic effects. Each match added another layer of scars. Over time, his forehead transformed into a surface marked by deep grooves and thick tissue. While many saw this as shocking, Abdullah saw it as proof of dedication. He never tried to erase the marks. To him, they were symbols of sacrifice made for entertainment. His appearance became his brand, and audiences recognized him instantly. His story raises important questions about the price performers pay for fame and how the body can become a canvas of career choices. In cinema, physical difference sometimes opens doors that talent alone cannot. Actor Bolaji Badijo is remembered for portraying the terrifying creature in the film Alien. His tall, extremely thin frame was the result of a genetic condition that made him stand out everywhere he went. In everyday life, this brought discomfort and isolation. People stared, often without kindness. However, during his time in England, filmmakers noticed his rare proportions. Inside the alien costume, his movements felt unnatural, slow, and frightening, exactly what the role needed. His body helped bring one of cinema's most iconic creatures to life. Though he never became a mainstream star, his impact on film history remains permanent. His story shows how different can find purpose in unexpected ways. Music again offers examples of survival and strength. Jamaican dancehall legend Yellowman was born with albinism, making life under tropical sun extremely difficult. From childhood, he faced stigma and exclusion. Over time, prolonged sun exposure led to serious health problems, including cancer. Surgeries changed the structure of his face, leaving visible scars. Many expected him to disappear from public view. Instead, he returned stronger. He continued performing, recording, and inspiring audiences worldwide. His presence became a symbol of courage. He never hid his scars, choosing visibility over shame. Through music, he showed that survival itself can be an act of resistance. In American pop culture, Lester, Beetlejuice, Green became famous largely because of his unusual physical appearance. Born with dwarfism and a very small head, his proportions were different from birth. Early life was filled with difficulty. Social interaction was hard, and independence required constant support. When he entered entertainment, his appearance drew attention first. However, over time, audiences began to see more than just looks. His humor, timing, and personality turned curiosity into affection. While his fame raises ethical questions about exploitation, it also highlights how society consumes difference. His story reminds us that respect must always come before entertainment. Across all these stories, one theme remains constant: society often reacts before understanding. Physical difference is seen before character. Judgment comes before empathy. Yet again and again, these individuals proved that worth is not measured by appearance. Whether through music, sports, film, or entertainment, they carved out space for themselves in a world that often tried to push them aside. When we step back and look at these lives together, a powerful lesson becomes clear. Physical difference does not decide destiny. People do. Many of the individuals discussed here faced rejection long before success. Some were judged from birth. Others saw their bodies change through career choices or illness. Yet what connects them is resilience. They found meaning where others saw limitation. They transformed attention into opportunity and pain into expression. The world of fame often magnifies difference. Cameras notice what society labels as unusual. But fame can also offer control, the ability to define one's own narrative. For many of these figures, acceptance did not come immediately. It arrived slowly, sometimes after years of struggle. Confidence was not natural, it was built. Through effort, self-belief, and creativity, they reshaped how the world saw them. It is also important to recognize responsibility as viewers. Stories about physical difference should educate, not humiliate. Curiosity should lead to understanding, not mockery. When told with care, these stories can inspire empathy. They remind us that every body carries a story, and every difference holds depth. From blues stages to jazz clubs, wrestling rings to film sets, these individuals prove that identity is more than skin, scars, or shape. They are remembered not because they were different, but because they refused to disappear. Their journeys challenge narrow beauty standards and invite us to redefine what strength looks like. In the end, this is not a list about strange bodies. It is a collection of human stories. Stories of people who lived loudly in bodies that drew attention, and who chose courage over silence. Their lives teach us that difference is not something to hide, it is something to understand. As we continue exploring these lives, it becomes clear that physical difference often forces people to grow stronger in ways others never have to consider. Many of these famous figures did not wake up one day confident or proud of how they looked. Confidence was built slowly, through pain, rejection, and repeated moments of self-doubt. Society has a habit of labeling anything unfamiliar as strange, and for people whose bodies did not match common expectations, life became a daily test. From school classrooms to public stages, they were watched more closely, judged more quickly, and forgiven less often. Yet what makes their stories powerful is not the attention they received, but how they responded to it. Some turned inward at first, choosing silence over confrontation. Others used creativity as armor, building worlds of sound, performance, or character where appearance mattered less than feeling. Over time, many of them realized that hiding only gave power to judgment. Standing openly in their truth became a form of freedom. One important lesson from these stories is that physical difference does not exist in isolation. It interacts with culture, history, and social belief systems. In some communities, unusual physical traits are surrounded by myths, fear, or superstition. This was especially true for people born with conditions like albinism, extra fingers, or uncommon proportions. From a young age, they learned that people often fear what they do not understand. That fear can turn into exclusion, bullying, or silence. For those who later became famous, childhood memories did not disappear with success. Fame may bring money and recognition, but it does not erase early wounds. Many of these individuals carried emotional scars long after the world began applauding them. However, rather than letting pain harden them, many softened it into empathy. They understood what it meant to feel unseen, and that understanding often shaped their art. Another key theme is control. For much of their lives, others controlled how they were seen. People stared. Media headlines focused on bodies before talent. Rumors replaced facts. But fame gave some of them a chance to take control of the story. By speaking openly, performing confidently, or simply refusing to apologize for their appearance, they slowly shifted public attention. The narrative moved from, "What is wrong with them?" to, "What have they achieved?" This shift did not happen overnight. It took repeated exposure, consistency, and self-belief. Each performance, match, song, or appearance chipped away at shallow judgment. Over time, audiences learned to listen more than they stared. There is also a deeper truth hidden beneath these stories. Bodies are not just physical forms, they are lived experiences. Every scar, difference, or limitation carries memory. For a musician, hands are not just hands, they are tools of expression. For an athlete, grip and balance shape identity. For a performer, the face becomes the connection between inner emotion and outer world. When these tools look different, the relationship between body and self becomes more complex. Many of these figures had to learn their bodies again and again, adapting techniques, adjusting habits, and finding new ways to express themselves. This constant adaptation built resilience. It taught patience, creativity, and persistence. These qualities often became the true source of their success. It is also important to talk about audience responsibility. Viewers play a role in shaping how difference is treated. When people consume stories only for shock or entertainment, they reduce real lives into objects. But when stories are told with respect, they can open hearts and minds. These figures were not born to be lessons, but their lives offer lessons anyway. They remind us that human value does not come from symmetry or perfection. It comes from presence, effort, and authenticity. When audiences choose empathy over judgment, they help create a culture where difference does not automatically mean disadvantage. Another powerful aspect of these journeys is visibility. Simply being seen matters. For people growing up with similar physical conditions, seeing someone successful who looks like them can be life-changing. Representation tells them they are not alone, not broken, and not limited to the shadows. Many of these famous individuals became symbols without asking to be. Their existence challenged narrow definitions of beauty, strength, and normality. Even when they did not speak openly about their conditions, their visibility alone carried meaning. It quietly told others, there is space for you too. Finally, these stories remind us that the human spirit is adaptable. People are capable of turning what once felt like a burden into a source of identity. Not because difference suddenly becomes easy, but because acceptance grows stronger than fear. These individuals did not succeed despite their bodies, they succeeded with them. Their bodies shaped their paths, their emotions, and their voices. In embracing who they were, they expanded what the world was willing to accept. And in doing so, they left behind more than fame. They left behind permission for others to exist fully, openly, and without apology. In the world of fame, cameras never blink. Every movement, every angle, and every part of a celebrity's body is watched closely by millions of people. For most famous people, this attention can already feel heavy. But for some, the pressure becomes even stronger because their bodies look different from what society calls normal. These differences may come from genetics, medical conditions, accidents, or personal choices. While the internet often labels such traits as strange or unusual, the truth is much deeper. These physical features often carry stories of pain, survival, and strength. Many black celebrities, in particular, have faced double judgment, one for their race and another for their physical differences. Yet instead of hiding, many of them stepped forward and turned their unique bodies into symbols of confidence, identity, and success. One powerful example is Manute Bol, one of the tallest players in basketball history. Standing at 7 feet 7 inches tall, his body looked very different from other players on the court. He was extremely thin, with very long arms and legs, which made people worry that his body was too weak for such a physical sport. Fans often held their breath when he fell or was pushed, fearing his bones would break. However, what many people failed to understand was that his body came from the Dinka tribe in Sudan, where tall and slim builds are common. His height and long reach allowed him to block shots like no one else could. Even though his body struggled with injuries and fatigue, Manute Bol proved that strength does not always come from size or muscle alone. His unusual body became his biggest advantage, and he earned respect in one of the toughest sports in the world. Another form of physical difference that often brings misunderstanding is albinism, a genetic condition that affects skin, hair, and eye color. Victor Von Oddo, a comedian and writer, was born with albinism. His pale white skin, light hair, and sensitive eyes made him stand out sharply within the black community. From a young age, he faced staring eyes, confusion, and even rejection. Some people questioned his identity simply because his skin did not match what they expected a black person to look like. Instead of letting this break him, Victor turned to art and comedy. On stage, he used humor to speak openly about difference, identity, and acceptance. Under bright lights that were difficult for his sensitive eyes, he stood confidently and told his story. Over time, what once made him feel isolated became the very thing that made him memorable. Similarly, Sean Ross, a high-fashion model also born with albinism, faced years of feeling like he did not belong. Growing up, his white skin made him feel invisible and exposed at the same time. However, when the fashion world began to look for faces that broke tradition, Sean's appearance became powerful. On runways, his glowing skin and calm presence created an unforgettable image. He showed the world that beauty does not follow one rule, and that difference can become art. Physical differences are not always genetic. Sometimes they come from illness. Singer Seal is known worldwide for his deep, emotional voice, but his face carries visible scars caused by a rare autoimmune disease called discoid lupus. As a child and teenager, he endured pain, treatments, and emotional stress as his skin was damaged and scarred. When he entered the music industry, people often focused more on his scars than his talent. Some even unfairly judged him as dangerous or untrustworthy based on his appearance. But Seal never hid his face. As his music reached millions, his scars became part of his identity. They reminded people that beauty is not always smooth and that pain can exist alongside greatness. His confidence changed how the world saw him, and his scars became a symbol of survival rather than weakness. In hip-hop, image plays a major role, and standing out is often the key to success. Bushwick Bill, a member of the Ghetto Boys, was born with a form of dwarfism that kept his height under 4 feet. His short stature made him a target of jokes and disrespect growing up. In a music world filled with tough images and strong bodies, he looked like he did not belong. But Bushwick Bill refused to hide. Instead, he stood boldly on stage, delivering raw lyrics with fierce energy. His small body contrasted sharply with his powerful voice and intense presence. Over time, his physical difference became part of his unforgettable image. He showed that power does not depend on size and that confidence can be louder than any limitation. Comedy is another space where physical appearance can shape how audiences react, sometimes even before a single word is spoken. Kevin Hart is often discussed for his shorter height, but another comedian, Cat Williams, also faced attention for his small frame and narrow build. Standing shorter than many people expected, with thin shoulders and a slim body, Cat Williams looked physically different from the strong, dominant image many comedians tried to present. Early in his career, his body made him look smaller under bright stage lights. Yet that contrast became part of his magic. His fast speech, sharp jokes, and fearless attitude clashed with his small body in a way that made performances even more powerful. Audiences laughed not at his size, but at how confidently he owned the stage. His physical appearance became a tool rather than a weakness. In Hollywood, Tony Cox faced similar challenges. Born with dwarfism, his adult body remained child-sized, with short limbs and a stocky torso. From a young age, he was stared at, underestimated, and sometimes ignored. Acting was not an easy path for someone who physically stood out so strongly. However, his unique appearance allowed him to take on roles that no one else could. In films and comedies, his timing, expressions, and confidence made him unforgettable. Though many people laughed before he even spoke, Tony Cox used that attention to control the scene. He turned curiosity into opportunity and built a long, successful career. Sports is often seen as a world that demands physical perfection, but some athletes prove otherwise. J.J. Weaver, a football player, was born with extra fingers on his hands, a condition known as polydactyly. From childhood, people stared at his hands and questioned whether he could compete in a tough sport. Gloves had to be adjusted, and every close-up camera shot drew attention. Instead of hiding, JJ focused on performance. His grip and control became strengths rather than problems. On the field, his tackles and determination silenced doubts. His story shows that even in sports, where bodies are closely judged, difference does not mean disadvantage. Some physical differences are deeply connected to gender, beauty standards, and public debate. Social media personality Zamina Or gained attention for her extreme body shape, marked by very large hips and a very small waist. Her appearance sparked constant discussion about beauty, body modification, and personal choice. While some praised her confidence, others criticized her decisions. Zamina claimed her body was an expression of her personal desire and identity. Whether natural or enhanced, her body became her brand. Her story highlights how modern fame often mixes body image with controversy, and how personal choices can become public property under the spotlight. Music and culture also include stories of resilience through physical difference. Jamaican artist Louis Rankin was born with an extra finger on his hand. In some cultures, this is seen as a bad sign, and he faced teasing growing up. Instead of hiding his hand, he embraced it. His tough personality and fearless attitude turned what others mocked into part of his image. On stage and in life, he showed that confidence can transform judgment into respect. Then there is Wilma Rudolph, whose story stands as one of the most inspiring examples of physical difference turned into greatness. As a child, she suffered from polio, which weakened her legs and forced her to wear leg braces and use crutches. Doctors told her she might never walk normally, let alone run. Growing up, she watched other children play while she struggled to move. But Wilma refused to accept limits. Through years of painful training and determination, she slowly regained strength. Eventually, she did more than walk, she ran faster than anyone else. She went on to win multiple Olympic gold medals, becoming one of the greatest track athletes in history. Her body, once seen as broken, became a symbol of unstoppable will. Fame today is more intense than ever, especially for artists whose bodies change under constant pressure. Cardi B is one of the most talked about figures in modern hip-hop, not only for her music but also for her evolving appearance. Over time, her body changed dramatically due to cosmetic procedures. Her curves became more extreme, and her proportions moved further away from what many consider natural. Every public appearance sparked debate, criticism, and endless commentary online. Some accused her of promoting unrealistic beauty standards, while others defended her right to control her own body. Cardi B herself has spoken openly about the pressures of fame and image. Her story reflects a modern reality where bodies are shaped not just by genetics, but by expectations, money, and attention. Whether praised or criticized, her body became part of her identity in the public eye. The modeling world has also seen powerful figures who challenge traditional beauty rules. DeAndre Forrest, an albino model, faced rejection and bullying during childhood because her appearance did not fit society's idea of what a black woman should look like. Her pale skin and light features made her a target. However, instead of hiding, she stepped into fashion with confidence. On the runway, her glowing skin under bright lights created a striking and almost magical image. Designers and photographers began to see her difference as beauty. She helped open doors for other models who did not fit narrow standards. Another figure with albinism is Condan, an underground rapper and actor known for his muscular build and pale skin. As a child, his family worried his body would be weak. Instead, he grew strong and powerful. The contrast between his light skin and solid muscles created a dramatic and unforgettable look. In entertainment spaces where appearance often defines success, Condan's body made him impossible to ignore. He showed that strength can come in unexpected forms. Across all these stories, one truth becomes clear: bodies tell stories. Some stories are written by illness, some by genetics, some by accidents, and some by choice. Society often rushes to judge these bodies without understanding the journey behind them. For black celebrities, these judgments are often harsher, shaped by history, stereotypes, and unrealistic standards. Yet again and again, these individuals prove that difference does not block success. In many cases, it becomes the very thing that makes them unforgettable. Instead of asking why these bodies are different, perhaps the better question is why society struggles to accept difference at all. These celebrities did not succeed because they looked perfect. They succeeded because they embraced who they were, faced judgment, and kept moving forward. Their stories remind us that there is no single way to look strong, beautiful, or successful. Every scar, every rare trait, and every unusual feature carries meaning. As viewers, we have a choice. We can stare, judge, and reduce people to their bodies, or we can listen, learn, and respect their journeys. These 25 celebrities remind us that talent, courage, and determination matter far more than physical perfection. In a world obsessed with appearance, their lives send a powerful message: being different is not a weakness, it is often the beginning of greatness. When we look deeper into the lives of famous people with unusual physical features, we begin to understand how society's reaction often hurts more than the condition itself. Many of these celebrities did not suffer only because their bodies were different, but because people refused to see beyond appearance. From childhood, staring eyes, cruel words, and rejection became part of daily life. For many black celebrities, these experiences were even heavier because they were already navigating racism, stereotypes, and limited opportunities. Physical differences added another layer of struggle. Yet what makes their stories powerful is not the difference itself, but how they responded to it. Instead of shrinking under pressure, many chose visibility. They walked into industries that demand perfection and forced the world to look at something new. Take athletes and performers who were told their bodies were wrong for their professions. Sports demands strength, music demands image, modeling demands symmetry, and film demands familiarity. Anyone who breaks these expectations is often pushed aside. Yet again and again, we see people proving that talent does not live in perfect bodies. A singer with scars becomes a global icon. A runner with damaged legs becomes an Olympic champion. A rapper with dwarfism commands the stage. These stories challenge the idea that success belongs only to those who fit a narrow mold. One important lesson from these lives is how public opinion can change over time. What is mocked in one generation can be admired in the next. Early in their careers, many of these celebrities were laughed at, ignored, or treated as oddities. Media headlines focused on bodies instead of achievements. Interviews asked uncomfortable questions. Cameras zoomed in on differences rather than talent. But as their work grew stronger and their confidence became visible, the narrative slowly shifted. Audiences began to listen. Respect replaced curiosity. What once caused discomfort began to inspire admiration. Social media has changed this dynamic even more. Today, celebrities with unique bodies are discussed instantly and endlessly. Every photo is analyzed. Every change is questioned. While this brings more visibility, it also brings harsher judgment. Some stars choose to respond openly, sharing their stories to educate others. Some choose silence. Both choices require strength. In a world where people feel free to comment on bodies they do not live in, maintaining self-worth becomes an act of resistance. Another important theme is ownership. Many celebrities reached a turning point when they stopped trying to hide their differences. Hiding takes energy. It creates fear. Once they chose ownership, their bodies stopped being enemies and became allies. A scarred face no longer needed explanation. A short frame no longer needed apology. Pale skin no longer needed justification. By standing confidently, they changed how audiences reacted. Confidence does not erase judgment, but it weakens its power. These stories also remind us that beauty standards are not natural laws. They are created, enforced, and changed by culture. At one time, only one type of face, body, or skin tone was allowed on screens. Anyone outside that box was labeled wrong. Today, that box is cracking. Models with albinism walk global runways. Athletes with rare conditions inspire millions. Artists with visible differences headline festivals. This shift did not happen by accident. It happened because people refused to disappear. It is also important to talk about health and mental strength. Living in a body that attracts attention can cause anxiety, depression, and isolation. Some celebrities openly talk about therapy, support systems, and personal healing. Others carry their pain quietly. Success does not erase emotional scars. Fame does not protect against insecurity. What helps is understanding, acceptance, and self-respect. These stories teach viewers that mental health matters as much as physical strength. For young viewers watching these videos, the impact can be life-changing. A child with scars may see Seal and feel less alone. A teenager with albinism may see Sean Ross or DeAndre Forrest and feel hopeful. A person with a disability may see Wilma Rudolph and believe in possibility again. Representation does not just entertain, it heals. It tells people that they are not mistakes. In the end, these stories are not really about bodies. They are about courage. About showing up when the world tells you to hide. About choosing pride over shame. About turning pain into purpose. These celebrities did not ask to be different, but they chose how to live with that difference. And by doing so, they changed how millions of people think about strength, beauty, and identity. As viewers, we should remember that every body we see carries a story we may never fully know. Judgment is easy. Understanding takes effort. These lives remind us to pause before labeling someone as strange or unusual. Behind every visible difference is a human being with dreams, fears, and determination. And sometimes, the very thing that sets a person apart is what allows them to leave a lasting mark on the world. As we come to the end of this journey, one message becomes very clear: being different is not a weakness, and it never was. The celebrities we talked about did not succeed because they fit into society's idea of perfection. They succeeded because they refused to let judgment define them. Each scar, rare condition, unusual body shape, or physical difference became part of their story, not the end of it. In a world that often celebrates sameness, these individuals stood out by simply being themselves. Fame can be cruel, especially to those who look different. Cameras can magnify every flaw, and public opinion can turn harsh very quickly. Yet many of these celebrities chose courage over fear. They walked onto stages, sports fields, runways, and movie sets knowing that people were watching not just their talent, but their bodies. Instead of hiding, they showed up fully and honestly. That bravery is what truly makes them powerful. These stories are important because they remind us that bodies come in many forms, and every form has value. Whether the difference came from genetics, illness, injury, or personal choice, each person learned to live with it and move forward. Some turned their difference into a signature look. Others used it as motivation to work harder. But all of them proved that self-worth does not come from approval, it comes from acceptance. For viewers, these journeys offer hope. They show that no matter how different you feel, you are not alone. There is no single definition of beauty, strength, or success. The world needs all kinds of faces, bodies, and stories. When we learn to respect differences instead of mocking them, we create a kinder and more honest society. So next time you see someone who looks different, remember these stories. Remember that behind every unique body is a human being with dreams and struggles. And sometimes, the very thing that makes someone stand out is what makes them unforgettable.